Hello, my friends. This is Troy Brewer of Experiencing Real Life, heard every single day on Bible School Radio, 91.3 KDKR, Decatur, Dallas-Fort Worth, and on 91.3 KYJC Commerce.
Portions of KDKR programming do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or staff.
Prudent Money with Bob Brooks is sponsored by the Prudent Money Foundation on 91.3.
Well, is budgeting the way to go? Today we're going to take a look. Stay tuned for Prudent Money. Good afternoon. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thanks so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. Well, if you need resources, you've got questions, you need answers, I've got a place for you to go. That's at prudentmoney.com. Just go and send up that question, and I'll get it taken care of for you. If you've got a situation that involves more than a couple of emails, we'll take care of it. Then make sure that you go and find my calendar. It's really easy to find. It's right there on the website. And block off a little bit of time, and we can have a phone conference and talk a little bit about your situation and get you taken care of. So either way, we just want to make sure that we're there as a help to you and help you with the questions and answers that you need some advice for. You know, that's one of the things that we've talked about, the new fiduciary regulations that are coming out and will be going into effect right now, supposedly in September, and we'll see if it comes out in September. There's still a lot of legal battles, and there has been for a long time against this particular situation. But the problem and not to get into all this, but the problem that we're seeing is that minimum balances are going way up, meaning that brokerage companies won't work with people who don't have, $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000 just to start with. And there's that. And then unless you want to go to a robo-advisor, which I don't think that's a great idea, then no place to go to get your questions answered. So that's one of the biggest reason why we rolled out this Q&A and making sure that you can ask questions to a real live person and get your questions answered. So that's off the website, www.prudentmoney.com. I want to start off today's program telling you a story. I was speaking, and this was a long time ago. I was speaking at a conference, and I was talking about budgeting and how to manage your money and how to go through the appropriate steps to really be a good steward over what God has given you. And so I was talking about that, and I said, truthfully, I don't believe in budgeting. And, when you're speaking to a crowd, it's easy to look out and catch facial expressions. Well, on the front row, there was a lady standing there and had the most interesting facial expression to what I just said. To the point that I had to literally stop what I was doing. I said, "Do you mind telling me why your reaction to what I said, that I don't believe in budgeting?" And she said, I was when I was growing up, my parents used to tell me about budgeting and that you need to do it, and the truth is, it never worked for me. But yet, everybody that would give me financial advice would tell me, "You got to learn how to budget. Budget's the number one thing." But I was no good at it, so I figured that it wasn't really. If everybody says this is what you're supposed to do, then it must be me. And it must be that I am not smart enough to understand how to budget. And I wonder today everybody who's listening, how many of you feel the same way? Because here's the problem with budgeting. budgeting is a very black and white process. And if it doesn't go just like planned, if it doesn't the numbers don't line up, if it doesn't work just like it's supposed to, then you've really got a problem, because you don't know what to do. You haven't made contingency plans. And so what I find, and this is in working with people for many, many, many years, is that they try their hand at budgeting. The intention is there to make you work, and they fail at it. And they give up. And they use the budgeting process that I call, which is fantasy budgeting, which you just hope that there is enough money there at the end of the month to cover the bills. I'm here to tell you that I don't believe in budgeting as the main tool for managing your money for 95% of people out there. For the other 5% that can make budgeting work, then that is an incredible thing, because I think on paper it is a great way to go, a great way to manage your money and your spending. The problem is that you have to be very, very, very disciplined to make it work. And yours truly, and maybe the rest of you, aren't that detailed. So I set out to put together a system that I felt would work much better and be a much more reliable way of going about managing my spending. And I call it a spending plan. And a spending plan is set up to where you put your approximate number, and you everything that you spend money on. So in a year's time, I mean, you're putting everything down that you're spending from Christmas to birthdays to hair shampoo. I mean, everything you spend money on is laid out on this on this spending plan, and it's very easy. You see the numbers. The numbers have got to be flexible, because you've got X amount of dollars coming in and X amount of dollars going out, and they've got to be flexible. So how do you determine what to be flexible with? And this goes into value planning. If you took and you calculated exactly where your money's going on a monthly basis, and you added it up, and let's say mortgage was number one. You spent the most money on your mortgage as a single item. Number two was household expenses or whatever. And then you go down, you categorize them, you put them in a hierarchy, and that is what you value about money. Where our money flows is what we value about money. It's not a right or wrong thing. It's not a good or bad. Own it. It's what works for you. Now, having said that, what works for you may not be working as well as you think it is. And maybe your value hierarchy needs to be switched around a little bit to get you closer to your long-term goals. But I'll never forget this. I had a doctor come to see me. And so where we were talking, and he said, Bob, he goes, I work so hard, and we make a lot of money. But, I've got two boys, both in high school, very active, very busy, and we're just running all the time. And I get to the end of the last week of the month, and I've run out of money. He goes, how is that possible? And I said, well, what I want you to do is I want you to go in and I want you to just categorize everything that you're spending. I don't want you to budget anything. I don't even want this to look anything like a budget. I just want you to track down what you're spending. And you and your wife do this together. Now, it's very important that you and your spouse, which is one of the biggest mistakes I see, is that only one of two spouses participates in this on their own by themselves. And as they do that for 2 or 3 months, come back and see me. So three months go by. They come back and I'll never forget this. He's walked into my office with this horrified look on his face. And I said, so, well, tell me, how did it go? And he goes, we spend $2,000 a month. We spend $2,000 a month minimum eating out. And I looked at him and I said, that's great. That must be something that you and your wife and your family value so much. And he looked at me like I was halfway crazy. I said, you gotta look at this from a value standpoint, because that's where your money goes. If you value eating out and it works for you and everything else falls in place according to your value system, then own it. If not, change it. It's just like I hear all the time from people that tell me, if I could just get tithing going. Well, if tithing doesn't even make the list, then it's just something that you don't value. There's no judgment here. I'm just saying, I use that one because that's a pretty strong process, pretty strong discipline. And it really comes down to, though, that hierarchy of what you value the most. So this is the core at this spending plan. Let me get back to that here in just a second. This is Bob Brooks. We were up against a break. Stick around. I'll be right back. Hello, this is Bob Brooks. Proverbs 22:3 and Proverbs 27:12 are the exact same verse word for word. I call them the stewardship verses of risk. A prudent person foresees danger and takes precautions. The simpleton goes blindly on and suffers the consequences. On the Prudent Money Radio Show, we teach about risk, how to identify it, how to figure it out, and what to do about it. We believe that to be a prudent steward, you have to be a good risk manager. Listen to the Prudent Money Radio Show on Bible School Radio 91.3. Prudent Money, home of the modern-day steward movement.
Dynamic, practical, life-changing.
There's no point in going to church and not letting the Christ who gave birth to the church on the day of Pentecost change your life.
Join us each day as Pastor Paul Shepherd applies the timeless truth of Scripture to everyday life. It's Destined for Victory on this great station.
Weekday afternoons at 3:30 here on Bible School Radio, KDKR.
In 1 Corinthians, Paul reminds us to run the race of life to win the prize. Join me, Dr. Erwin Lutzer, for Running to Win. Be strengthened to finish your race with confidence.
Weekday mornings at 8 o'clock here on KDKR.
Welcome back. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. We're talking about developing a spending plan, and one of the keys to this is looking at a spending plan from the standpoint of discretionary items versus non-discretionary items. And when you first start out, and this is, if I could tell you to teach your kids one thing about money, it would be this: the difference between discretionary items and non-discretionary items. Discretionary items are things that you do, that you have fun with. You could do it, or it's not something that is a have to by any stretch, but you enjoy doing it and you spend money on it. A non-discretionary item is a bill that if you miss paying it, you're going to lose your car, or you're going to lose your electricity, or maybe they're going to take your home from you. So non-discretionary items, extremely important. What we have done is become an environment where non-discretionary items have gotten too large in our spending plans. And that's what you got to take a cold, hard look at. It's just like with credit cards. Credit cards start out as a discretionary item, and the minimum payment may be so small that you consider it a discretionary item. But what you're building is a non-discretionary item. Once you go from 1, you go to 2. You go from 2 to go to 3. You go 3 to 4, 4 to 5. Now you got 5 credit cards loaded up to the top, and it's now officially $800 to $1,000 of non-discretionary expenses that you've dug yourself a deep hole. And instead of ignoring the problems, instead of getting upset about it, do something about it. Take some action. And this is the most important thing that you can do, is take action. And if you need any help, you know where to go, prudentmoney.com. Send me an email and let's talk about it. It's something that I'll be the first to admit I have not spent as much time teaching my boys the difference between the two. I've taught them a lot of other things about money, but those two things and I think it's important because what it does, it teaches you how to live within your means. Because, and I'll give you a good example, and I can I'll pick on myself because I was the king of non-discretionary items when I first got out of school. I bought the expensive car. I rented the expensive apartment. And little did I know, as I was digging myself into a hole, but I always had this belief system, there will always be money there. And soon it got to a point to where that non-discretionary part of the spending plan was pretty big, and I didn't know how to live within my means. And by the way, living within your means also means living with today's income, not the income that you think you're going to get. It's one thing to live with what you know is going to come in, not what you expect or suspect to come in. There's a huge, huge difference. And another thing, starting out, the problems with spending money on food and entertainment. I mean, eating out has almost become a non-discretionary luxury. I'll be the first to admit that's a huge problem in my house because I do a lot of the cooking, and when I come in, it's all planned out, but it takes a lot to make me want to cook. I don't enjoy doing it, but that's what works in our marriage. Sherry does. She takes care of some things. I take care of some things, and we make it all work out. But I've been getting a lot of emails about this here lately, and I wanted to give you a ministry that you can go check out. Chuck Bentley, CEO of Crown Financial Ministries. Chuck comes on the program once a month. Just an incredible man of God. And I don't think there's anybody who knows stewardship better than he does. And that's what they teach at Crown, and they teach you how to spend your money, and they teach you, and it's all It's all there to help you. It's a ministry. They have a lot of big volunteer staff. In fact, you might have come across the Crown Couples workshop that a lot of churches, and many churches, do this all over the country and in other countries as well. And it's a 8 to 10 week class where you and your spouse combine with other husband and wives, and you talk about money. And I've taught probably 6 or 7 of these studies, and I'm just amazed at what God has done to change lives. Probably this is worth telling. So I love to get this message out about Crown, because it's just such an important ministry. Crown.org, by the way, is the web address. There was a client that I was counseling with. She'd gone through a horrible loss. Her husband died. I think he was in his 40s. And so we're just literally trying to put the pieces together. And I said, why don't you come to my Crown class? Because we're starting a brand new one, and I think it'd be great for you, because there's singles that come to us, not just married people, it's all kinds of people, different stages of life. It would be such a big help. And she said, I can't promise anything. I mean, she had a lot of issues built up with money too, which didn't help at all. And so she showed up, and the door was already closed, and someone came and said, "Hey, you got someone out there to see you." And there she was. She was just crying. She said, "I just can't do it. I just can't do it." I said, "Just try it. You don't have to come back. Just try it this first time." So she tries it. And what I watched over 8 to 10 weeks, now keep in mind, she just buried her husband, and she found him after he already passed. She's got tremendous issues with money, fears with money that are tough. They're really tough. And I watched. She didn't miss a week, and I watched her grow. I watched her speak out. She told me by halfway through she wanted to lead a class, and I saw God transform her into the steward that she always wanted to be. And that's all through Crown. So you can get it from more information at crown.org. But I think that this speaks to something that's really been on my heart, is that from a practical money standpoint, we can only do so much. We only have so many tools. Learning capacity, but we can do our part. But if we leave God out of the process, then it's all for naught. But we got to include God into the process. And it's not so that God can save you, it's because I think that you've got to do your part. So that you do your part, and God can take that and open doors for you that you won't believe, that you never imagined could happen. And I've seen that happen so many different times. And just the people who show up in people's lives at the right time, at the right place. And that doesn't happen if you don't include God in the process. Or it may happen. I don't know. But I'm saying, though, that's the supernatural right there. Sorry about all that. I just had a lot to share with you. Hey, this is Bob Brooks. If you got a question for me, please go to the website at prudentmoney.com and send it in, because we are all out of time. Till we do meet again next time. Keep the faith and have a great rest of the day.
That's all the time we have for today. Questions or comments for Bob, or to find out more great information like what you've just heard, visit www.prudentmoney.com. Be sure to join Bob Brooks again for the next edition of Prudent Money.